Welcome everyone, Questine here with an essential game guide for Total War Warhammer 3, with the purpose of winning a campaign very quickly. How quickly, you might ask? Well, let's just say by turn 30 or 40. Now, when we're talking about winning a campaign, quote-unquote, it's not about reaching the victory screen of a campaign. That can involve a lot more turns, but it's about creating a situation in your campaign where you would need to royally screw up and basically not play the game anymore in order to lose. And so your victory is assured. That is what I'm talking about, winning a campaign. It's also about securing your short campaign victory condition or being in a position where you can do so very quickly without too much effort. Now for this video, I have selected Xiao Ming, the Iron Dragon, as a Legionary Lord. He has, from my perspective, one of the best, if not the best, campaigns for beginners. He has a powerful army, he has a good starting position, his campaign is relatively straightforward, he has good faction effects, he has good lord effects. One of the crucial things about his faction effects is he gets 15 armor for melee units, which goes to 25 for his army with the Desert Armor skill, which you can acquire very, very quickly. His western flank is protected, quote-unquote, by the fact that the factions there, be it Greases or Gorst, are not particularly hostile towards him. And they also have their own issues. Diplomacy is one of the things you gotta consider. What makes a campaign harder or easier is the starting position in a lot of ways. And Gorst has the issue that he wants to wipe out the Skaven over here in Flayed Rock. Then he'll likely encounter Kugath and have a war with him, most likely, or he'll end up in a war with Greases. Greases has the issue where he starts at war with three factions, including the Dwarves of Karakazorn. He's gonna win this battle, by the way, but even when he wins that, he then has the issue of Gorst to the south, Drazza to the west, Grungor to the north. So none of the factions to the west, unless you deliberately piss them off, are going to end up being a major issue in your campaign. So that leaves the East, Grand Cathay itself. We do start at war with the Dissenter Lords of Xiangyan. And this is the territory we want to capture. Winning a campaign quickly is about having a plan. It's about deciding, okay, this is where I start. Where am I going to be 10 turns from now? 20 turns from now? Well, my intent 20 turns from now is to be on the damn coast, having wiped out Snitch and Lokir. The biggest threats in this campaign are Deathmaster Snitch and Lokir Fellheart. None of the other factions over here in Cathay, like two of the factions over here, the Burning Nomads and the Jade Custodians, are friendly towards me. Miao Ying is friendly towards me. Po Mei, the Nanyang rebels, are going to be wiped out. The Celestial Loyalists are also friendly towards me. So you gotta consider the diplomatic relations that you do have. Let's use Gorst as an example. His diplomatic situation is that he has Greases to the north, who doesn't particularly like him, but he doesn't hate him either. Then he has Kugath to the south. None of the factions that surround Gorst hate him, but none of them particularly like him. So it can go either way with him. Whereas with Xiao Ming, many of the factions that do surround him like him to an extent or another. Or they don't particularly hate him, so you end up with a secure western flank, unless you decide to piss off those factions, and you have to worry about the east. But when I say the east, the Vampire Counts faction over here in the Celestial Riverlands is not really a threat. The Jade Custodians or the Burning Nomads but the Burning Wind Nomads will almost certainly wipe them out in time. So that leaves Snitch and Lokir. But before we go deal with Snitch and Lokir, we have to go deal with the Dissenter Lords. There's also some Skaven in Senwu. Now, in every campaign, what you should do when you start it out is you should consider some diplomatic choices in order to get some money, in order to improve your diplomatic relations. So for instance, by declaring war on the Cross Clubs that Greece starts a war with, I can gain myself a trade agreement and a bit of money. In some campaigns you can get more money than others. In some campaigns, you may not get anything at all. For instance, I go to Miao Ying, get a trade agreement by declaring war on the faction he starts with. The variety of trade agreements, the variety of agreements you have at the beginning of a campaign do vary, obviously, between campaigns. Generally, the kind of agreements, these kind of declarations of war can net you a significant amount of money, far more so than I just gained. But you should be careful about doing so, because you may end up in a situation where you do start wars with factions you shouldn't. It can also, your diplomatic reliability can be affected. Now, one key mechanic that Cafe does have are their caravans, so I'm just going to send one here. Your early caravans should be relatively fast ones, like 6 turns, 5 turns. I'm going to send one to Zakharek. It should be safe, even though I declared war on the Cross Clubs, but that's because I know the Cross Clubs only have this one army over here, and the caravan route, while it is certainly going to cross their territory, it should avoid any of their armies. Besides, Greece is going to wipe out their initial army very quickly. One thing to point out about gaining money from the AI through agreements is that they'll have more money on legendary difficulty, or on higher difficulties in general. In point of fact, I would dare argue your campaign progress can be significantly faster on legendary if you know what you're doing. While the mouths might be harder individually, there's a lot of potential for gaining a significant amount of money from the AI. One of the things to understand. Campaigns can be slower on lower difficulties. While the challenges are lower, you just don't gain as much money from diplomacy, you don't gain as much money from post-battle loot. Then having more armies for you to defeat means more experience, more money, more resources in general. So, with all of that said, let's go deal with the first battle. He has a provincial capital to take. And in this one, I am just going to auto-resolve this because I don't need to fight it in any way, shape, or form. And I am going to recruit myself some Jade Warriors and level him up. The first thing you generally want to get in a campaign is either Root Marcher or Inspiring Presence. This applies to every legendary lord. But one of the things you need to understand about that particular choice, while getting Inspiring Presence is the better choice if you have enough movement range, you need to ensure you always have enough movement range for the next battle that you're going to be fighting. In this case, I do want to take Sen Wu on turn 2, so I am just going to, so I have enough there. Now, in the case of Xiao Ming, because he does have Desert Armor, I'm instead going to go with that. Because armor affects the auto-resolve result, and just, well, affects your combat capability. Another thing I'm going to do is enable the Great Bastion to start increasing the casualty replenishment that I have. It's one of the main ways Cafe has that. And then I'm going to start getting research. The research I'm going to aim for is the Dragon Scale. So I'm going to get Fletching Mentors for 10% ammunition, and I'm also going to get Dragon Scales over there. On top of that, I am also going to go down the Yang path. The reason I'm going with Yang is because Yang gives you local recruit capacity and recruit rank. Also reduces recruitment cost. So I obviously want to get that quickly. I could stay balanced, but not in this particular case. I could have also leveled up this skill, Searing Doom, with that army. Just decided not to. Now, one choice you may have at the very beginning of the campaign is whether or not you get the second army from the very start of the campaign. In this case, I don't think it's necessary, but you do want to start getting as many armies as possible. Be careful about this. Some factions, some legendary lords do obviously support this, others do not. It depends on the situation, depends on how much money you can get turn 1. So if I were to start getting a second army here and say globally recruiting with that army, I would run out of money very, very quickly. I wouldn't even have enough money. Only get the second army when you can afford to recruit in it and you can afford to get it at the full stack. Don't get the second army unless you can do so, because supply lines are going to increase your upkeep costs in general, and you do need money for structures as well. So with all of that being sorted, that is just the first turn. We are going to end this particular turn. There are other choices I could obviously go for, some diplomacy choices, but this is just relatively safe and secure. So that leaves me to deal with the Skaven. Now, I could have fought the battle manually for Hanyu Port, I probably would have taken less casualties than I ultimately did. One of the things to understand about the auto-resolve situation is that attacking any particular settlement does inflict a significant amount of damage on your armies. Doesn't matter if there's a lord in it, doesn't matter if it's just a garrison, regardless of what you're dealing with a settlement inflicts a lot of damage because the auto-resolve is favoring settlements. And it's kind of sad because the actual armies, the field armies, don't get favored as much by settlements. Like, it's easier to auto-resolve field army than it is to auto-resolve a settlement. Now, over here, I could either fight this or auto-resolve it. Let's just auto-resolve it. With regards to caravans, I am going to want... Now, the one issue you might have here, I'm going to go for a replenishment, and he gained rank too. Okay, so we got the Yang building, that's income. Okay. So we're just gonna go against the Skaven. They should have nothing there but the Lord with a couple of units. And let's see how well we do. Well, I'm gonna lose some crappy spearmen, so don't care. Now, the reason I'm doing so well in auto-resolve is because, well, Grand Cafe. And I'm going to get rid of the barracks over here in the minor settlement. You generally, when we're talking about military construction, you want to have the barracks that, or the military buildings that only go up to tier 3 in minor settlements. You want your provincial capitals, like Ionia Port, to have buildings that go to a higher tier. And you also want economic buildings in them. One of the ways to achieve a lot more in your campaign, one of the main ways to do so, is to maximize your economic output and do as little as possible in terms of recruitment. This will force you to have armies that will, in a lot of ways, look the same. That is certainly an issue. Don't get me wrong on that. It is not it's something that does affect variety that you do have in campaigns by quite a significant amount because of that. Now over here, it's turn 2, and I have 15 units in this army. I am recruiting more units with Yang. It's probably going to be like 3,000, 4,000, something like that. Closer to like 3,000 total upkeep. I could recruit a second army at this point and start global recruitment. Or I could wait another turn. Just wait, then start global recruitment. You can take it fast, but sometimes you kind of want to wait. And let's get that trade agreement over there. And always consider, like, okay, what kind of diplomatic options are going to be available in my campaign after X point. Now, here I can get the peace treaty with the Cross Clubs, but that might piss off Greases. Now, thankfully, I have a peace agreement with Greases. And I have a non-aggression. I have a trade agreement with Greases, so I could avoid that to a certain extent, or I could just pay him for a non-aggression agreement with also a declaration of war on the Sons of the Mountain. Now, the Sons of the Mountain may be an issue because they could decide to come for me, or they might not be. One thing to understand about these kind of agreements is that getting a non-aggression agreement with the AI is actually something that's incredibly useful, because a non-aggression pact will mean that when the AI has decided it wants to go to war with you, they won't just break that alliance, because the AI doesn't want to lose its reliability, which you get by breaking pacts, like let's say breaking a non-aggression agreement before the 10 turns, and then also declaring war. The AI doesn't do so, so they'll break any agreements first. They don't suffer the same reliability penalties as you do, but they'll break any agreement first and then declare war on you. And this may take a couple of turns. So the more agreements you have with the faction, the less likely you are to end up with a declaration of war randomly thrown against you. This is actually quite crucial because it's how you secure your borders. The important thing to understand about any Warhammer free campaign, you never, ever leave a defensive army in a territory if you can avoid it. It's one of the worst possible things you can do in a campaign. It's a massive waste of resources, massive time, a massive amount of money. It's a significant resource. Because early on in a campaign, especially, you will only have a limited number of armies. So if you're wasting those armies by having them just deployed on the defensive, that's a waste of time. The way you protect your borders is understanding the diplomatic situation with the factions. Like, who's your neighbor? What are the chances they're going to attack you? What are the chances that they're going to destroy you? What are the chances they're just going to backstab you? Well, the AI generally doesn't backstab you. Funnily enough, Skaven are actually some of the most reliable allies you can get in Warhammer 3. This is a bit hilarious, but it is true. If you can make an alliance with the Skaven faction, generally speaking, they will stick to it. Unless they hate you for whatever reason. But I've never been betrayed by a faction out of the blue. You just gotta understand how the AI works. The AI doesn't like you gaining power. They will view you as a strategic threat the bigger you become. There is racial aversion to take into consideration as well. All those kind of things. Okay, so over here, I've gotten a quest. You don't need to own the DLC for this right now. And what I am going to do here is just march in range there. I am in my territory, but I'm also taking attrition. So just march to the border and recruit a bunch of Jade Warrior crossbowmen. And over here, we're going to get another Yang building. Going to push that yin and yang favorably towards the Yang. Well, that's, you know, faction-specific mechanic. Now, I also want to get better relations with Gorst, non-aggression pact, secure my border. As I stated, you want to secure your damn border. That's how you do it. Now, I don't want to declare war against the dwarves, and in fact, I do want a peace agreement here as well, because well, I could declare war on the dwarves. They're not really going to be too much of an issue. Greasus doesn't necessarily, like, overall, he is in favor of what I'm doing, but he's also not too fond of what I'm doing, suffice to say. But at the same time, it's just the question of money that I'm working with. So right now, I am at 5,000 gold. And what I'm going to do at this point is get the second army. Now, your second army, what kind of lore do you want for the second army? You can either, you have two choices here, really, with the lord. You can either go with the magic caster, because having a lord that gives you magic is always significant. Because early on in virtually every campaign, you're not going to have that many casters, so having that magical ability is always useful. Or you can go with the really powerful melee lord. Trait-wise, you want something that could help you with construction costs, because that can save you a significant amount of money in a campaign. Or you can go with the lord that gives you army benefits. The humble Lord Magistrate. Whichever lord you get that in the second army, consider the fact that he might end up being the one that ranks up highest the quickest. So whatever lord effects they have might end up being particularly useful. In this case, I think I'm going to bite the bullet and get, and not get Fervent Questioner, but get Bureaucrat. So, and get a Celestial General for the melee power he has. And start recruiting Jade Warrior Crossbowmen. Also, since he does have that trait, we are going to reconstruct the building. So now I'm spending a lot of money on global recruitment. Global recruitment is something you want to do early on because you want to get those armies as quickly as possible. But be aware of the cost, because you are going to end up spending a significant amount of money on this. But the significant advantage is that 2 armies, as recruited as quickly as possible, give you in your campaign cannot be understated. So, let's take Shenyang. Okay, over here I got the caravan event. I'm just gonna agitate warriors because of their high levels of armor. And we're also gonna level our provincial capital. Now, the only mod I have enabled here, by the way, is the toggle fog of war mod, just to showcase the map and all that it entails. Okay, here let's talk about something. Besieging settlements. And some of the things you need to know about that. First, though, I am just going to go over here and get more units, because I do want them. Though I may not have enough money for what I do want to do. One great thing, by the way, about this caravan system is it gives you vision. Having vision with various factions is actually a fairly substantial benefit. Because it allows you to... It allows you to get a bunch of agreements in your campaign. Now, I'm not going to get that peace treaty there. But I do absolutely need more money here. Because the spice must flow, as they say. And because the spice must flow... because the spice must flow, I must get some money. Now, let's talk a bit about siege battles. One of the things to understand about siege battles when you're attacking a settlement is the most ideal circumstance with winning a siege is you take at the settlement, you attack it. Creative Assembly has a lot of videos on this subject. And it's like, Creative Assembly doesn't know how to play their own damn game, as far as I'm concerned. It's like... I'm just like, I understand the community managers, the people in marketing that make those videos. They're not there to showcase the competent gameplay. But it's like so divorced from the reality of their actual game, it's not even funny. Now here I could auto-resolve this battle. But doing so obviously would inflict significant losses. I would take significant damage. On a lower difficulty, I could lower the battle difficulty, and not take those losses. Or I could fight the battle manually and win it. Now, here's something important to understand about sieges. When you're attacking a settlement, any settlement, it can be a provincial capital, it can be a minor settlement. This is a provincial capital. When you're attacking a settlement, you kind of want to have, let's say, 25% movement range. In this case, I have 43% movement range. There's several reasons behind this. One, like in this case, my ranged units can kill the entire enemy army without me going through the walls, which is something you generally want to avoid because you will take a lot of damage inside the wall. So you can win a lot of battles without that. Okay, that's one thing to mention. Two, you can sack a settlement if you have like 20% movement range or so. You can sack a settlement and then occupy it on the same turn. That may give you a lot of money, the money I personally need at this particular point. Now, sacking a settlement will reduce that settlement level by 1. Occupying a settlement will also reduce it by 1, so be aware of that. And also be aware of the damage you're going to do to the buildings, because that's not something to be ignored either. But first, we're just going to go declare war on the Jiangxi rebels and get a bit of money for our troubles. We can also get a peace deal with these guys. And, well, next turn I should get more vision with various factions as I progress further and further. Once I get to the dwarves, that's where things get interesting. Okay, so let's fight this battle. Okay, so here we are with the siege. Oh yes, the wonderful fucking sieges of Total War. Let me explain how sieges work and what you should give a shit about when we're talking about them. Never spread your army around in a siege, unless you have to because of various AoE abilities like Ikka Claw and his nuclear weapons. always concentrate your army on this one section of the wall that you are going to attack. If you have reinforcements, move them so that they're going for you. Wherever you decide to attack should be the most undefended section with the fewest wall towers, because there's a lot of settlements, not all, but there's a significant number of settlements that do have parts where they're covered by wall towers, but also sections where they're not protected by wall towers. In this case, these two gates are going to be my entry points. Wall towers have infinite ammunition and can kill your entire army if you're not careful. The chances of that happening, of course, are very, very low. Now, here's what you need to know about sieges. They're, one, awful to deal with. Two, I will build wall towers and barricades at every point they can. Your goal is to win the battle at the wall. Yes, things have not changed at all since Warhammer 1. Actually, even longer than that. If you have a melee army, what you do is you mass them together at one or two gates, and you just use that to break through. I could do that here. I certainly have the range capability of doing so. The melee capability of doing so. If you have a range-centric army, and Cathay is certainly more range-centric than they are melee-centric. If you have a range-centric army, you mass all your units together. And this is why you want to mass your units, I might add. You mass all your units together. And you try and kill everything inside from beyond the walls. Now, you might run out of ammunition. This is where having campaign movement range matters, because if you have campaign movement range, you can withdraw from the battle without having to go through the walls, basically suffer no casualties. The defender on the walls, in Warhammer 2, any unit on a wall would actually take significantly less damage. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but having replayed Warhammer 2 a bit recently, like, that's one of the things I've noticed. Now, this is not a question of the AI being stupid, believe it or not. Though it's certainly really stupid getting its range unit shot up. But it's also creative assembly not knowing how to fucking design the sieges. Now, it was certainly a bad dynamic that they had before. I'm not going to try and pretend otherwise, because the dynamic they used to have, where it is not really that much better. In the sense that sieges were pretty awful. But it's the case like a massive range units attacking a wall will always win a battle with any units on the wall. The reason is that you can attack the units on the that might be situated on the wall without and win that range battle. Doesn't matter what units they are, doesn't matter what tier, because you obviously have concentrated firepower. They don't. And let's say that I may have range units behind the wall supporting them. Well, guess what? You can hit the units on the wall without the units, without the AI's defenders from behind the wall supporting them, so you can just kill units en masse. Now, in this case, I'm running out of ammunition, but look at the damage I've done with 0 losses. By the way, this battle would cause me to lose half my freaking army if I were to fight them manually. If I were to fight it in auto-resolve, sorry. This is why auto-resolve is garbage. And why sieges are also garbage. Now, in this case, I've run out of ammunition for my units, or many of my units. I mean, I could just stop right here, take no damage whatsoever, or I can win the battle. Like, when I say stop right here, basically, I mean in the sense that I can genuinely just withdraw, come back, kill everything in sight, get ammunition, because ammunition replenishes when you attack again, and win the day. But surprise, surprise, I still have enough ammunition to actually kill everyone, or a vast majority of the defenders. So I think I'm gonna do just that. Though first, we're going to get these guys on the walls. Try and get them. Now, one thing to understand is if there's going to be a unit in your army that takes damage, the units that are best suited to taking damage are heroes and lords. The reason is heroes and lords are the ones that are going to replenish from that damage the easiest. Yeah, shockingly enough. I know. So there's nothing I'm losing really by having Xiao Ming take. I mean, it's not going to be instant recovery, to be sure. And he's obviously facing a lot of anti-large here that he's not necessarily well suited for, but it's like, remember the damage I just took earlier from Dragon Breath. Okay, that's enough. I would argue. We can break down the gate. Well, someone's dead. Okay. And they're breaking down walls. Xiao Ming has done his duty. And now we are going to do ours. We're gonna march in and kill everyone. The AIs, by the way, almost lost the battle here. It's like, you just gotta break their leadership. Battles are not won by killing every unit. They're won by breaking the morale of the enemy. Also, the reason these tactics, I might add, work, the tactics that I've been using, where, you know, I'm trying to do a lot of damage to the AI and not take a significant amount in return, is like, there's a balance of power. You can't see it here, but there's, on lower difficulties, there's a balance of power between you and the AI. The higher that's in your favor, like if you win on the balance of power, you cause the entire enemy army to rout. So the more damage you're doing while taking as little as possible in return, the better off you will be. That is the key, if you will, to winning a lot of these battles with minimal casualties. Because you want to take minimal casualties. The worst kind of battles are the ones where you end up taking a significant amount of damage, so does the AI, and that battle gets prolonged by quite a bit. Simply because of that dynamic. I'm kind of using a lot of Winds of Magic here to do damage with the simple Dragon Breath. They're also being quite a nuisance. Now, the smart thing, as I said, I hate doing it because I hate going for the loading screens, but the smarter thing would have been to, let's go there, would have been to obviously stop where I, stop when I, okay, let's get those Logma Riders. Okay. Try and get those guys. No more Winds of Magic. And that should be it soon enough. Okay, he might die if I'm not careful. Yes, lords can die. As you can see, the mass arrangements is certainly starting to take its toll. Though, also, I have to say that there's no chance I'm going to lose a single unit. The reason I'm not going to lose a single actual unit here really comes down to, like, I need to kill that lord. Like, that's going to be the key there. I hate barricades. Let's try and get the... As Yao Ming is certainly capable of slaughtering them en masse. Don't you just love when the enemy refuses to break because of bullshit defender benefits in terms of... there we go. Far less damage, I might add, than I would have taken otherwise. I mean, that battle seemed like a lot worse than it was, wasn't it? 98 men versus the hundreds I would have lost. Okay. And the only reason I took as many casualties is because, alright, that's not going to give me necessarily the damage I want, so I'm not even going to sack the settlement, but because this is a quest battle, or a quest objective, I'm actually going to get all that I want there. You can get melee defense, I'm going to get short aim. Because while I certainly do like my okay. While I do certainly like the melee units in Xiao Ming's army, they're not the ones dealing the damage, it's the range units. Their benefits are survivability. We get more campaign movement range. One thing to know, in every campaign there's quests. And these quests generally give you a lot of money, 5,000 gold in this case, which, yeah, I need it. And you can... knowing what those quests are, when they kick in, what they're gonna give. Like, for instance, I had the quest like, oh, a mission for this at rank 3, another at rank 12. Knowing what those quests are, they can be quest battles, they can be simple settlement situations like that. Knowing where those quests are gonna kick in is an important factor. And the Dissenter Lords are finished. But what do I do now? Let's end the turn. I can obviously go east and take the mountain region, but I'm gonna go north instead. Their army is destroyed. They're finished. Done. Dead and done. The only question really here is how I decide to finish them, because I can obviously go to the Shrine of the Alchemist, which is all the way to the north, or I can go east. It's smarter to go north, because then I'll take control of the entire province, and I'll end up in a position to deal with Snitch, where my army will march directly against Snitch. Okay, let's add some Jade Warrior Crossbowmen. Brass Clubs destroyed, Moon Howlers destroyed, ammunition acquired. Now here, I am not going to get any yin or yang building. And we gotta decide... let's just move him over there. And take the Shrine of the Alchemist. Gonna take a bit of damage there. But again, that's damage I can recover from. And I am also going to start moving this particular army east. I am going to take damage here, but there's ways of mitigating that.
And be recompensed.
I am going to take economic damage, rather. But there's ways of mitigating that. You don't need to play a campaign with a positive income. All you need to know is how can you survive 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns. But if you can survive a single turn and not run out of money, that is all that you need to win, to keep going, to push your armies further and further and further. And you do want to push your armies further and further and further.
Let us stumble through. Leader of men, did you need something? Let us stack.
So over here, at the current rate, it would take me 20 turns, right, to run out of money, even with all the units I'm recruiting. In fact, I'm tempted to just start global recruiting as well. That is what's important. Like, positive or negative incomes are not necessarily too... Obviously, you want to have a positive income, or as high as possible. Sometimes it's worth having a lot of money in the bank instead of just spending it. Like, what's more important is actually how much money you have total rather than how much money you're gaining a turn. Because a lot of post-battle loot money is gained. A lot of settlement sacking income is gained. All that kind of stuff. So that is important. The reason, by the way, I built the resource building in Shenyang is because I wanted balanced harmony. I want the balanced harmony because of the upkeep benefit that it does provide for all the armies and the province. And also the economic benefit. And we finished the caravan. Let's send another one. Longmount Whisper, Clandestine. And we are going to send one to Drakenhof, or we can send to the Frozen Landing, but let's go with Drakenhof.
Get out of my mind.
Okay.
In Father's name. The infinite might.
Not worth the post-battle loot. The damage would cost more to repair.
You will obey.
Now, in this case, we're gonna get sure aim, and this is where I'm gonna stop. When you're leveling up Legendary Lords, you want to like spend 5 points. In this case, I spent 6, and then stop because their special skill line will generally unlock on rank 12. His will unlock earlier, but the idea remains. Now, over here, we want to move this army and get some melee units. Balance is critical. And here, I am going to get rid of this building. I don't need unit recruitment. Unit recruitment buildings that you're not using are unit recruitment buildings that are wasting you money. Here, I'll just get cargo capacity. And we are going to march on Taitsu soon enough. This army will take... I can either take this entire province. There are choices that you do have available. Like, I can either take this army to advance to the north, or I can take the Celestial Riverlands and then confederate the Jade Custodians eventually. Those are the choices, the primary choices there.
Do not disgrace yourself.
We are not going to agree with peace. Peace is a lie. Okay, just gonna add the noble. All the objectives that Creative Assembly added in patch 4.0 really do help you out in a major way. Now, here, I'm going to go yin. The reason I'm going to go yin, I want the growth. I want to start growing this province as quickly as possible. So I'm going to build a tea parlor. And I'm also... So I certainly do it because I'm going to soon leave this province. So might as well take advantage of that. Income is in the black. So let's get more units. And level up. Get that to a higher level.
Natural authority.
And declare war on the Death Hack fleet over here. Although there are other choices. Potentially. As they crop up. For instance, Snitch is at war with the Diamond Sons. There's nothing I'm losing by declaring war on them. Absolutely nothing. Don't declare war on Beastman factions, it might ruin your settlements.
The dragon-blooded.
Okay. So right now, 9 turns until I go bankrupt. I will not be going bankrupt, suffice to say. But here I do need the growth, so I'm gonna go with yin for the extra growth, construction costs. Sometimes you don't want to build the major economic buildings because the growth buildings are important because you may gain more by growing a province very, very quickly.
For what reason am I disturbed from...
Okay, they asked for a trade agreement. No problem. And now I'll take Taitsu. And I'll start getting that economy in order. You can either lose leadership or control. Don't lose leadership. Well, Lord leadership is not too important, but still.
Natural authority.
Now, I was paying attention here. Don't declare war on the Crooked Moon, because you might live to regret that.
Windshaper.
Onward.
But at this
You may
point,
speak before my shield bearers. All right.
if you're going to declare war on various factions, it's generally better to do so against minor factions.
The overtime.
I am not going to advance my relationship with Greases there. I would rather not have to deal with Gorst.
Take time to gain
So over
the
here,
enemy's
because of the
leisure.
attrition, I'm just going to move this army in camp stance into this territory. And we're going to wipe out Taitsu.
Is not
I'll be able to resolve that. Their unit recruitment is non-existent.
we shall prevail.
And just occupy it. Alright, great. More balanced harmony. Not what I wanted, I might add. But I'll wait one turn. And over here, we will be going for control. Speaking about controls, rebellions are not necessarily too big of an issue. We're gonna get more Yang here. And I'm gonna get another army. Yeah, we're not stopping. Like, this is the thing you guys need to understand. Like, you look at the situation. I've got an entire stack bearing down on the vampires. I've got an entire stack bearing down on Snitch. You think I'm gonna stop here? Like, yes, I will risk bankruptcy. But I will not stop recruiting units. This is the whole point. So my third army, it's turned 8 to understand this. My third army, and I'm gonna be careful what I choose here. Let's go with solid. My third army is going to be built just to reinforce Yaoming or to reinforce the Riverlands. Depends on the situation. Flexibility. Never limit your campaign by the number of armies you have. Always, always go for more. Now, I might bankrupt myself doing this, or be forced to make a bunch of choices that I wouldn't want to do. So you gotta consider that balancing act. But
Wind
overall,
I speak with the wisdom of dragons behind me. Long
overall,
Is on.
this is gonna end up working far better for me than the other choices, because
Onward.
that means that, like, it's still 10 turns until I go bankrupt, and I have an entire stack there. This is why playing on Legendary, the capabilities that you can achieve in a campaign, like the speed at which you can win a campaign, is far greater. Because that army there in the Celestial Riverlands, it's a lot of money. It's 2,000, 1,000, doesn't matter, right? 2,000 gold. And I'm pushing towards 10% passive campaign replenishment. I've got an entire stack of troops that's going to be able to wipe out anything Snitch is going to throw against me. I'm going to wipe out the vampires over there. And even if I run out of money, here's the crazy thing. Even if I run out of money, I can just take the Celestial Riverlands territory and sell it to the Jade Custodians and keep going. Keep going. Keep pushing. Keep pumping, if you will. Or I might even take a peace deal with these guys, right? If I desperately need it. I'm not desperate. It's a calculated risk, I know. Okay, so the armor is finished. Now we go up. We want that growth.
To the people,
And we're gonna take
Lord of the Jades.
Xiaoming. We're gonna stop at the border here. Hello, Snitchy.
Seeking rare substances. Humility in all things.
Okay, we level this up. And now I get to decide where I want to send this army.
For Grand Cathay.
Now, it's certainly one of the easier starting positions, like one of the easiest even.
Marching to war.
In this case, they ran away.
Into Cathay.
Now, if you desperately need money from diplomacy, keep in mind this is not a great idea if you want to confederate a faction. But if you desperately need money, you take a settlement, you trade it. One of the things AI cares about when considering a trade for a settlement is barracks. Military buildings are highly valued by the AI in these kind of agreements. That's something that does matter to them an enormous amount, and something that will have a lot of impact. Now the compass is soon going to, it is next turn going to change direction. So that's something I gotta be aware of. We're gonna get a room archer because there is a distance cover.
General of the Celestial Host.
I am like there's two ways I can play it. If I give this faction territory, my chances of confederating them will go down. But I will be able to confederate them anyway eventually because of all the diplomatic benefits I have. So if I keep this building, I will certainly gain a ridiculous amount of money. I don't want to sell it this turn because I would take a lot of damage. And I can even get the peace tree with these guys and, well, just wait for the JKPrimative burning nomads to wipe them out. This is what I mean, like, money should not be a factor in any campaign you're playing. Suffice it to say, if you know what you're doing. So, okay, end the turn. Now, as for Snitch. When you're dealing with Skaven or enemies that can ambush you, it's always important to move slowly in a camp stance. Be careful. If you are attacking, when you're attacking, you need to, like if you're trying to traverse territory, you need to be aware of, okay, what is the enemy doing? Have they wiped out their factions? You can look at that for the diplomacy screen. Have they wiped out their foes? Have they dealt with that? Or are they still at war with them? Like, for instance, the question with Snitch is, like, has he taken out... Okay, there we get an ambush. I thought I could win. Yep, I know I would win. I didn't want to fight that battle.
Servant of the dragons.
He is
Battle is nigh.
in Force March.
We are Turkey's true bastion. You shall toil.
Casualty replenishment. And we are then gonna get sure aim
Such treasures.
for the actual manual battles. You can get the melee benefits if you want.
Advance.
And now time to get more units.
The dragon.
A heck of a lot more units. I'm tempted to leave the compass for casualty replenishment because if I stop using it, it will go down and then there's real battles that are gonna happen here. So, with regards to Snitch, when you're about to attack a major faction, you need to be aware of what you're dealing with. He's wiped out the greenskins there.
Darkness.
General.
More's chosen.
If
Leader of men.
I sell this element, it makes it harder to confederate in the long term. The more, with regards to confederation, it's all about keeping the factions weak. So, if you want to confederate Miao Ying, it becomes a heck of a lot harder to do so. Ooh, the Great Bastion has fallen. I haven't even seen the Imperial Wardens. It becomes far harder in this campaign to do so if Miao Ying is strong. If she's weak, then that's when it becomes easier. Now, I'm a bit concerned about the Beastman faction that's gathering strength over there to the north, to be sure.
Celestial General.
Okay.
There is a way.
Now the real war begins. So there's a minor army in the garrison. One thing to understand about declarations of war,
Unity. Celestial
or just
Empire
just occupying it,
never grows.
is that each AI faction
An appealing expense.
has some settlements, or certain AI factions have some settlements that are really important for them.
A gift.
In the case of Snitch, that settlement is his starting one. Without that, particular settlement, we're gonna go for control. I hate to lose that casualty replenishment, but I kind of am in that position where money is gonna become an issue. I can't quite maintain 3 full stacks right now with the economy, so I do need to buff it up. So next turn, it's gonna go up, and we're gonna press on against the vampires. As stated, if I need money, can sell shit to the Jade Custodians. With regards to confederations, whenever an AI faction gains territory, and this is what I've noticed, there's always that situation where they gain territory and they end up there's some penalty for confederations whenever a faction gains territory. Also, the more territory a faction okay, that decision is made for me. I'm finished here. The reason I'm finished here is because, well, they just prevented me from gaining the province. So,
Attention.
if they hadn't done so, I certainly would have
While we can.
done things differently. What I'm going to do here is I am going to take the Belfield Hill. Sometimes the decisions are made for you. So, in this case, we get the military alliance. As you can see, it's going to obviously affect my
Darkness.
diplomatic relations by quite a bit. We're going to get the peace treaty with Clan Worms.
Celeste.
Wind.
On behalf of I accept.
Celeste. Gaze upon the glory of the supreme empire. For
Darkness.
And now, to cap it all off, really, I'm going to move him slowly here.
Good time.
But my goal is to go for Snitch. He'll only have slaves at this critical juncture.
Harmony above all.
Okay,
Your services
keep recruiting.
are required.
I'm already moving in that critical stage where
Ruler of the
it's
sky road.
the more I keep going here, the more I build up, the harder it's going to be for the AI to throw me out, to defeat me. In this case, I do need growth and construction costs.
Lord Magistrate.
I am absolutely losing a significant amount of money each turn. But that is not yet over.
You dare. What? Who?
the dragon-blooded.
I gotta decide what's worth it more: a peace agreement with the vampires after I wipe their army and take their and sack their settlement, or to take the settlement and sell it to the Jade Custodians. I already have a military alliance with them, so. Or maybe I'll just end up suffering right here. He wants that agreement, and I'm not willing to give it to him. You don't want to take every agreement with every faction. The reason behind that, the reasoning there is because if you do take an agreement with every faction, it is going to end up being bad for you. And that's how you defeat Snitch, I might add. Underway interceptions are awesome things, aren't they? I've chosen a lot of casualty replenishment. It's important. Cafe doesn't have heroes to enable casualty replenishment. So the compass, the post-battle choice, they are important for that purpose. Okay. So they haven't wiped out the vampires, which would have been a concern because I would have lost there. It's all about them risks. And as we can see here, now, since we're gonna have a real fight on our hands, we're gonna get some Regiments of Renown. Regiments of Renown should be used as, well,
Praise be to the Iron Wind.
as an emergency army.
Fight, iron and fire. Mighty conquerors, mercenaries.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm gonna go Yang. Yin. Now, when you're trying to make a peace treaty deal with AI faction,
City commander.
okay, that will be the third army.
Humility in all
Finished. What do you think I'm gonna do after that? Will I get the fourth? Maybe not. Let's not go into madness. Here I'm gonna sack it
Speak now, then
and get that peace treaty agreement.
By the light
I
of
know
the
they're gonna
moon,
be finished.
You are a guest in my... Agreed.
Natural authority. Wind shaper. You need not
Alright, they're at
face
war with
our
Nakai.
might. Harmony. Child of the night.
Yes?
Now you gotta be careful
Ready.
on who you declare war on.
The Celestial College implores that I hear you. I will.
The dragon.
all right? Ready?
Because obviously that might affect your caravans.
The second. Now, speak up.
And also get some peace agreements when they are available.
What is your demand?
Celestial.
This went a heck of a lot better than I honestly expected. Let's get... Those are weapons, 4 weapon strength.
Is impeccable.
We are gonna push. Snitch may take back his helmets, though his army would never be able to defeat mine. Not in 100 years.
General.
Okay, let's start progressing towards Loke here. Yes, we're gonna go there.
I am a warrior of the dragon.
Because we do have vision on him. Let's see he's at war with.
The Tower of Bless.
Celestia. Natural. Wind.
Deckhands! Enough prevaricating! I'll see a pact or you'll be zombies before the next tide!
Nah, it's not
Corsair
worth
of
it.
the night.
And I am faction strength number 2. I want to point out that Xiao Ming is not the most ridiculous legendary lord in terms of that. Gremgor. What I would have achieved in a Gremgor campaign, like, I was tempted to play a Gremgor campaign for this particular video. Let me just say that would have been more absurd. Like, if you think this is absurd, you haven't seen anything in this game. Tyrion would have done potentially better. Ali Fanar could have done crazy things. Gremgor would have done crazy things. Drazif, many others. Xiao Ming is, like, he's strong, undeniably so, but he's not quite the level of absurdity
With my alchemies.
that some others are. It's for him, his strength is like he's more of a slow builder actually in his campaign. Once he builds up, he's on nigh on unstoppable, but it's like he's not the most absurd legendary lord.
I see its potential.
Now I'm gonna take a bit of a risk.
Stone.
There's an army to the north. I actually kind of expected Snitch to show up by this point, if I'm being frank with you guys.
Cover tracks with haste. Greetings.
Child. The dragon.
Must faced.
Okay,
Storm Dragon.
I could declare war on village for all the worth that's gonna have in a campaign.
Feet of fire.
And I'm gonna start moving this army. Alright, another caravan. And let's see where we want to send it. I'm not at war with Drazif. This seems like the better choice.
Test of iron.
I am going to get unyielding finally.
Such power. We shall prevail. It shall know an iron.
It will cost what it will cost. Right, they're gonna need some replenishment there. Pronto. Now I'm tempted to declare war on Loke here. But it might be better if he puts these guys on the back foot.
Select. The sea
Although if I
brings
let them build
death.
up, that might be worth it. I will be able to confederate them.
On behalf of Cathay.
Eventually.
Corsair of the
And let's
night.
consider this. This is turn 13. I've done only 10 settlements. Okay. I do need the Ivory Road if I'm going to win this, to be sure. So I do need that alliance with Greece, as much as I don't care for the fat bastard. But like, at this point, with the exception of like Lokir's main army or 2 armies of Snitch, there's simply no way I am losing. That's how quick you can do it. 20 turns, 40 turns. It's gonna take up to 40 turns. And as expected, he shows up to ruin my day. That was not a surprising turn of events, I might add. I knew he was gonna do it. He is annoying having done that, to be sure, but it is part of the game. Sometimes it does happen. He took Taitsu. Well, maybe I do need to send that army that I just built there that I was gonna throw against Gorst. Can't you guys wipe those guys out? I was gonna throw that against Gorst, maybe sell the territory to Greece's. Picking a fight with Gorst with a tertiary army sounds suicidal until you realize that it actually fucking works. But let's pick a fight with Snitch with a tertiary army because we're just that crazy. It would be difficult for Snitch to win. I'm not being demented here.
There's wisdom. Soldiers of the dragon, march. Get out of my mind. A great boon to my experiments.
Okay.
Leader of men. I am a warrior of the dragon. A compact.
What? The Empire. Greetings, all you surveyors. On it. So,
Okay.
the boss. Greetings from Sigma.
Well, he's certainly at war with a lot of people.
Who calls? The boss.
Miao Ying, enter. None accept.
I want her to lose. I really do.
Harmony is consensus, not conformity.
That would be worth a lot.
The ancestor.
Kinda need to stabilize the Great Bastion, don't I? And this is one of the issues that Xiao Ming has always had. It's like whenever you play him, you might achieve a lot, but then again,
affiliation has long
inevitably, what ends up happening in this case, Miao Ying can't defend the Great Bastion. I feel bad for Miao Ying. She's utterly worthless. Now I need to be careful here because Snitch is not the joke. I can beat him, but not if he ambushes me. That's where things get complicated. Alright, they're marching on Imperial Road. Okay. Not too bad, actually. So maybe I just want to move Xiao Ming's army there to take, well, take the diamond mine back, because I'm going to need that damn gold. I could obviously take the capital, but I think it's better if I just push it. Lokir is now at war with the Celestial Loyalists. That's the opening I want. Choices. I'm not going to run out of money anytime soon, so... This is his last settlement. Well, his last major settlement. He doesn't have any unit recruitment.
And unity. Xiao Ming.
I'm going to upgrade Jade Wind Mountain.
Lord Magistrate.
And since Snitch so graciously moved here,
Many blades. What? Blade.
Child.
So, what?
Celestial ancestor. As a dragon blood. The ancestors.
Leader of men. Let us stumble through diplomacy together.
Well, there we go. First confederation.
Instrument
So let's
of the
see.
divine. Let us stumble through
This does have its
diplomacy.
issues,
The Empire.
to say the least.
The Emperor wills it.
So I'm gonna move that army there. This army is gonna take Taitsu. He's going to deal with Snitch.
Lord Magistrate reporting.
Well, you guys are useless. Let's get rid of these useless wankers.
If this is the dragon's will,
Serve from the front. I can be servant of the dragons.
Okay,
Enforce
start recruiting some artillery. And it's gonna go Yang, so
crave
let's get melee unyielding.
of iron.
We're gonna go Yang.
Yeah. Who calls?
Now this is where you get vulnerable.
Yes.
This kind of
Talk at
position.
me in your crude language
right
if you
here.
must. I make no promises as to the outcome.
If I declare war on them,
So, yes. Aye.
Clan.
Bring fire and terror.
throwing fire and terror indeed.
Right.
Let's declare war on the crooked moon mutinous gets.
Sounds good.
What?
approach and make your
Fine.
Couple of non-aggression
Sigmar's
pacts.
will. Approach and make your offer. Indeed.
All mine.
Just keeping myself. Don't not touching the mountain eaters because Grimgor is coming for them.
Humility in all things.
And now I'm kind of in a position where I do need to stop with this army. Like, I could obviously take this element next turn. That's not the issue. The issue is I kind of want to wait a bit to... Like, we're on army number 4 over here. Yes, we're going there.
Fight in ordered ranks.
Alright, he sacked it, but that doesn't matter.
The Iron Dragon's assistance.
What do you want, Gorst? Yeah, he's preparing to declare war on me, that's what. When I'm not ready for it. Now, he's gonna have a bit of a difficult time, and he's not gonna instantly do it, and he has the war with Kugaf, so it means his armies are gonna be west. So I have a bit of a buffer. That's why a non-aggression pact matters, because, like, when an AI feels it can get away with it, they will do it.
Instrument of the divine.
Okay.
Attention.
Let's start getting some crossbows. Now, I don't know where that army is, and I'm a bit concerned about that.
The Iron Dragon.
If I'm wrong here, this might be a painful lesson.
I desire to dream. I will.
But yeah, we take Taitsu back.
We are order. They are rabble.
Lord Magistrate reporting.
And then we have to march east.
Windshaper.
Cathay wishes no ill.
The
of
Durzina
harmony.
Enclave is still alive. I'm amazed.
Tyrant.
Storms. There is no need for hostilities.
Obey. The The boss. Yes. Do not sully my... Oh!
No declarations of war available that I would want to go for.
Talk at me in your crude
Except this
language
one.
if you must. I mean... Aye. Yeah. Ain't sure. A boss over...
And it would be easy enough to get the military alliance with Greeks.
Over tyrant knows
Get
best.
fucked, Gorst.
Child of the Nine.
So all I need is military alliance, which will also ultimately happen when I do declare war on the okay, let's. It is gonna be painful if I screw this up, but I kind of am in that position where sometimes you gotta take the pain.
A tool of great efficiency.
Now.
He's at war with Orion.
Traveling the ivory road's not for top speed. All right.
Who will win that fight? Good question.
What brings you
Who's gonna
to
win
the
that
halls of my
fight?
ancestors?
Also a good question.
Ancient what? Lord of the Night. What? Hashoot been done.
No wars.
Bring death. Death. Master of misrule.
Village is right there, so starting that war would not be a wise choice. Okay, so we can declare war on Azag. He's gonna lose. This is what happens to Azag in virtually every campaign. He starts a war with Draika. He may start winning it, he may start losing it. It doesn't matter. But what fundamentally does happen in that campaign is that Ungrim shows up from
Some real eastern pathogens.
the south
All mine.
and just kicks his ass. All right. So, I got my army over here in camp stance, ready to kick the door open, as it were.
Celestial General.
Continue working with me?
I'm afraid in that respect, Greases, you are gonna have to deal with that on your freaking own. He's gonna take Singpo, by the way. Yep, as expected. He does still have that second army. Because Singpo's garrison had been eliminated. I'm concerned about the second army. If need be, I can fight two Skaven armies. That's the risk, though. Just don't see it. Down the road. So,
Attention.
I got one
Lord of the Jade Swan.
more turn before I go bankrupt, and it's time to go pay Gorst a freaking visit.
Guided by my ancestors.
In charge.
Okay.
is willing to negotiate with all who respect.
There's an agreement I can get behind.
Tyrant.
And it's just that simple to keep yourself going. Just getting one particular trade agreement, one
Let's have you then. I'll hear what you say.
one choice of that specific nature.
Down your throat. The boss.
Greases is gonna be an issue. Without a doubt. We can get 10% upkeep for Yang units, which sounds exceptionally tempting, I'm not gonna lie.
For Grand Cathay.
Alright, this army is moving into position.
Instrument of the Divine.
That army can't do much. not against that. Now, to find the way to not... Okay. Okay. Well, the rebellion is actually a good thing. I know, it sounds crazy, but it's actually gonna end up working for me. Because it's gonna be a bit of money. Who's winning here? Hold on. We can actually see here. Because caravan destinations. Sorry, Frogrim, you're dead.
You come to Bretonia, stranger. I am its king. Very well.
Let's declare war on Bellicor then.
A wise move.
Okay. I wish I could upgrade that, but I can't justify it right now.
Why does the Emperor forsake us?
Hold on. I want the rebellion. Yes, Creative Assembly's idiotic -8 difficulty level modifier is actually a net benefit, believe it or not. For all the annoyances it causes you, for all the issues, for all the frustrations, and they are frustrations, it actually ends up generating you money experience in it. Like, some people would play a campaign in Warhammer 2 where they would deliberately spark rebellions. That might work out for the worst. Oh yes. I've counted on that, I know. That's the price you pay sometimes. And yeah, should have expected he would not be passive. But sometimes you just gotta roll with the hard sixes. Now, normally I would have fought that battle if it was a regular campaign, but I don't care. Like, that's how you should do it. Like, you should fight the battle, try and inflict as many casualties, but it's whatever at this point. Like, this is the stage. Like, I'm literally at the point where that army doesn't matter. As long as the capital in the north stands, the city stands. Sure, I lost a lot of money because of that. Because all the money I spent recruiting the units, all the money I lost in upkeep and all that. I was kind of hoping Lokir would not do that. But ends up happening. And now we get to smash Lokir. Snitch will take the Jade. There's the Skaven army. The one I've been waiting for, basically. There's the army. And another rebellion.
Worships me.
But with Snitch dead, that's it. And by the way, attacking an army outside of the settlement, significant benefit because I get all this money that I wouldn't otherwise do. Issue solved. Is he in range? Yes. So he's gonna protect that settlement because he is at war. So we're gonna cancel that. Get another army. I know. It was a mistake. Start getting some Iron Hail Gunners. If need be. Let's get that armor.
I would take that.
If need be. But let's consider the... Let me consider the campaign situation here for a moment. I have defeated the biggest threat in this campaign. All he has here is an army of slaves. That is it. There's zilch he can do to stop me in this situation. I might even want to move this army outside here so I can deal with the rebellion. As stated, having a rebellion is not a bad thing. Creative Assembly treats rebellions as if it's a downside. It's like, what? Sure, it slows your campaign down a lot, but if you're having to constantly deal with the rebellion, so to speak. That's one turn, then I'm gonna move back to casualty replenishment. I'll lose the income, but I am not in a position where I'm gonna run out of money. And then we're gonna go to war against Gorst, because that's just how things roll. And Lokir? Well, he might besiege the capital, to be sure. Let's make it a bit harder. He might besiege the capital, but even if I lose the capital, which is certainly no guarantee, even if I end up losing the capital, it doesn't matter there. I'll just take it back. So it's like, it's done, finished. Campaign completed, more or less. He is gonna do what I expect him to do. Let's see if we can finish Snitch for good. I just want to end the rodent. Though, as stated, it's like, he won't win. Like, even if he takes the settlement, I'll just show up and wipe the floor with him. And yeah, that's basically it. Let's try and do that.
Be gone, miscreant!
I'll take that.
No time to waste.
Now the real question,
Dragon-blooded Shugunga. Fight in
as stated, Lokir is finished.
this time. Child of
For the power of Outresolve in settlement battles. That wasn't even a settlement battle, that's just me deciding earlier on in the campaign that I wasn't gonna spend the amount of time required to defeat to fight a manual battle. Like, this is how much I hate manual battles right now in Warhammer 3. Like, they're so meaningless and crap.
Harmony above all. To arms in
There we
St.
go.
Young's name. They are sufficiently broken. City commander, quick march.
it shall please the dragons.
I greet you with
The snow.
Yes?
So there's nothing that can stop me right now. GG,
whatever they
more or
have,
less.
We have dragons.
Might lose a lot of troops. Who cares?
We are Cathays.
I'm in that I don't give a shit anymore mode, but more or less.
Cathays now. First among warriors.
Though obviously that battle would have, like,
Have delivered
I just want to
us
click that enter and snitch his faction
finally
dead.
dry land.
And hell, a lot of money coming in as
A
well.
worthy addition
Let's
to
go
my
further with this. Let's go a lot further with this. I have 24,000. What do you think I'm gonna do? Time to recruit another army.
Celestial
Yes,
gen-
5 stacks. That's where we're going here. We ain't stopping.
Celestial gen-
An upper hand, indeed.
Few would turn down such weaponry.
Our supremacy is assured.
Imminent rebellion. I am so terrified about that imminent rebellion, I gotta tell you. Let's go for Dragunov. Okay. He's almost certainly going to attack there because the AI is kind of hard-coded to attack when they run out of settlements. That's the reason he's going to do so. He actually won't. I'm shocked. It's like, I kind of expect the AI to suicidally charge into its own demise. I'm a bit surprised. I think it's because of the AI changes in 4.0. Maybe. And that's the end of Snitch. More or less. The army can't even defeat the garrison at that point. Let's go with this Realty. Bad money. and a rebellion.
Leader of men.
And that is all, ladies and gentlemen.
Ready to defend.
All I need to win this campaign, if you will, is just get a military alliance with Mr. Greases, and that would be it. Short campaign victory condition would be achieved. I could just literally pay him for it. 14 settlements, 20 turns. Halfway there in terms of settlement numbers. And I just eliminated the big major threats.
Building harmony.
And hell, this wasn't even the most optimal because I halfway through it, I just stopped giving a damn about it.
Instrument.
It gives you an idea of how to treat it. Now, don't throw away an entire army like I did over here just because you can't be arsed fighting a battle, because I could have won this. Might have been touch and go, but certainly could have won it. Or I could have just not kept it in that vulnerable position, because AI will take advantage of that if they can. But hey, I ended up wiping out Lokir, so that actually ended up to my advantage. Like, losing a battle is not necessarily the end of the world. Like, we're talking scale here. So it's like 2 armies, 3 armies, 4, 5, turn 20. I grant you, this is one of those campaigns where you can do it. Not every race can do it. That's why certain races and legendary lords are better than others, gentlemen. This is why when I get comments like, oh, you don't know how to play the race. No, I know how to play ogres, I know how to play Kugak, I know how to play Skaven, you dipshits. It's just they're shit. Well, some of them, obviously, you know, some of them are just worse. Kugak, that's why Kugaf is bad. That's why Greases is bad. You think Greases is capable of doing this in 20 turns? You can, by the way. It's a lot more painful. And that's why they're worse. It's like, what are we talking about here? We're not like, this is not the skill competition, by the way. Like, you want to measure your success in life by how good you are playing a crappy faction in a video game? Go ahead, do so, if that's all your life is worth to you. But objectively speaking, obviously Xiaoming is one of the better factions in the game at the moment. Capable of doing these kind of things. But there are many other legendary lords we can do it. Even weaker ones, believe it or not. Like, I could have played, or weaker races, I could have played the campaign as, I don't know, Boris Ursus, for instance, and I would have done just as well here. Maybe I wouldn't be looking at having 5 armies, even if my economy would be in the red, but I certainly would be looking at the substantial amount of campaign potential in his campaign. Because despite being a Kislev lord and thus inherently bad, he's still a really powerful lord. Okay. And that it would be it. Stay tuned for more.